Hello, Mavericks, Mystics, and Romantics. It's Erin from the Instagram account Romance Tarot Witch, and I'm back with another video. This is going to be a pick a card reading, a shadow work reading, which probably sounds kind of scary if you don't know what shadow work is, which admittedly it is. This is kind of something that I really love to do. I love to do readings that, you know, help people heal the things that they may not be able to see. And this is the purpose of this reading. So, disclaimer, if you are in a bad spot, if you're feeling sensitive, if you're feeling like these are not topics that you want to deal with, this may not be the reading for you. We're talking about dark topics. We're talking about issues that a lot of people don't like to talk about, very uncomfortable issues. So if that's not something that you want, if you're not ready for that conversation, if you're feeling sensitive or anything like that, click away from the video, maybe come back when you feel better. You know, I just kind of have to put that disclaimer out there so that you don't end up getting triggered or upset by some of the things that I'm saying, because admittedly, this reading is going to be some tough love. Now, there's going to be a part of the reading that's designated just for how you heal things to let go of, and then there's going to be a part of the reading that's just some flaws that you might have that you may not be seeing and things. So if that's not something that you want, please protect your energy, click away, like don't put yourself through that. Now, for everybody else, this is going to be a shadow work reading. It's going to address some things that you need to heal, some things that you may not realize you're doing that's kind of sabotaging you, all of that good stuff. So thank you so much. We got my little Wednesday Addams here to kind of give us a sense of confidence when we think of us going through and dealing with issues that we don't necessarily always want to deal with, right? If you ever see the Addams Family has no problem talking about scary stuff. The death, the crazy, the intense, the yuck, no problem going there. And that's kind of the energy that I want to invite you into. You know, allow yourself to go there, allow yourself to receive the message, even if it doesn't feel as comfortable, because sometimes being uncomfortable is the most amazing thing when it comes to actually healing. And in fact, you know, when a wound heals, the first thing that happens is it hurts, and then it starts to get itchy. It's like not comfortable. It's like, oh, this doesn't feel good. And that's how you know that the wound is healing. So let this video allow you to be accepting of the uncomfortable feelings that may come up, so that it may allow you to heal. Now, with all that said, we have 3 piles here. This is going to be pile number 1, pile number 2, and pile number 3. Take a few minutes, take a few breaths, you know, to figure out which one of these are calling out to you, and I will see you on the other side. Pause the video if you have to, but we're going to go ahead and get started with group number 1. Okay, group number 1, starting with you, we're going to go ahead and start off with this first card here. We have the word sacrifice. This, to me, says someone who is very much willing to sacrifice for others, but doesn't necessarily want to sacrifice for yourself. This is someone who might be sacrificial to a point where it's actually starting to hurt them, giving people chances when they don't deserve chances, you know, always throwing themselves under the bus because it thinks that this makes them a better person. It does not. Sometimes selfishness is actually very, very needed. And this is kind of something that might be lurking a bit in your shadow here. Like you have the belief system that, you know, sacrifice is a way that shows love. And even you might be the kind of person where you might sacrifice so much for others, and if they don't give it back to you, you start lashing out at them because you see this person has a sword. It's like it's like, I'm going to sacrifice for you, and if you don't give me that back, then you're a jerk, you're a terrible person. And the thing about it is that this is even something in my own life. I was in this place where I would sacrifice a lot for other people, and if they didn't give it back, I would get really angry at them. I get really upset with them. And at the end of the day, like, these people didn't necessarily owe me anything. Like, if a sacrifice in its truest and purest term isn't really something that you're expecting to get back. So if that's something that you're going through where you're expecting things from people because you've sacrificed for them, I'm going to encourage you to let that mode of thinking go. Simply don't sacrifice of yourself that much. Simply don't go and do a million things for other people to the point where you have nothing left, because that's going to cause you to lash out even if you don't want to. So getting some more details here, of course we have the tarot cards. Cute. We're using the Haunted Tarot, by the way, and this deck is called the Dark Mirror. You both get these on Amazon. No affiliate link, I just thought I would mention that. So let's start here. You have the Three of Pentacles, right? So it's like this woman is like laying down, and these two people, they're kind of like over top of her, and I feel like this is kind of you. Like, you know, you see she's like wearing the white dress, the sacrificial thing, like, oh my god, look what has happened to me, look where I am, I hurt myself. And like, you might be the kind of person where if you're not getting enough attention from people, you might enter yourself into some drama, enter yourself into some crazy stuff, because you're like, you know, this is where I'm getting my entertainment. And I think that because you have this Ace of Wands here, and like the Ace of Wands is like starting up the fire, starting the fire. So if you're not getting the kind of attention that you feel like you want, you might start some drama, you might start some stuff, you might start doing things that you may not for entertainment purposes. So you got to find your life purpose. Group number one, you got to find your life purpose, because if you don't, you're going to get pulled into drama and people's stuff, and even be the cause and start of drama, because you're not doing what you actually want to do in life. And that's what happens when you are telling your soul's purpose no, when you're going and chasing a dream that has nothing to do with your core self, because of money, because of a relationship, like whatever the reason is, what ends up happening is that you sacrifice your own inner light for an artificial one. And what does an artificial one look like? It looks like drama. It looks like, you know, gossip. It looks like, oh, what's this person doing? Like getting into other people's business. Like you find yourself getting sucked in to other people's business because you are not living your own truth. As I say to a lot of people, happy people don't be getting into other people's business. Okay, people who are content with their life, they're not worried about other people's business unless they're very, very bored. And if they're bored, again, they're not following their inner life purpose. They're not going for the thing that actually makes them happy. They're not following their soul's path. Therefore, they're caught up in the drama. She's like, ooh, I hurt myself. Ooh. You know, this is kind of what I'm seeing off first glance. I'm also seeing, like, you know, maybe a bit of an incorporation, like when you want to deal with others, you're not dealing with others in the way that you kind of would want to. So we also have this Three of Cups, and you see like this person, she is kind of drowning in this like ocean, like she's kind of like stuck somewhere. We have like this little wall here. And so for me, this is saying like, you've saturated yourself with so much artificial entertainment that it's like you're drowning in it. You're not really a part of what's happening anymore. You're kind of just drowning in the artificial. You're not really a part of your the thing that you want to be a part of, I guess you would say. Like it's like she's drowning in her own drama and her own stuff and other people's stuff. That's kind of the first thing that came to mind when I saw this. And it's like this sacrificial stuff. Like there is a mentality that comes with someone who, again, like going back to this card of sacrifice, where it's like, you know, you lash out at people because you feel like you're doing so much for them and they're not returning it. And the answer that a lot of people like to give is the one where you try to control the other person and you get them to feel a certain way about you, so they feel grateful. You're trying to force them. And like someone who is on a spiritual path, or someone who's like a therapist, or anyone will tell you that that doesn't work. You can't control another person. You can't control how they feel. You can't control how much they love you or any of these things. These are completely 100% out of your control. You cannot get someone to do that. So what ends up happening is like you start drowning in your own misery and your stuff because you're not following your life's purpose. You're not doing the thing that actually would make you happy, your life path. You're sucked in to other people's lives and doing things for them instead of following your own path. All right. So let's go ahead and look at a few things. Ooh, we have know-it-all and we have forcing change. See, we were just talking about this. Again, you can't go out of your way to force somebody else to feel about you the way that you want them to feel about you. So let's put up a scenario where you have a woman who is in a relationship with a man, and she picks him up from work all the time, pays for all his stuff, treats him really, really well, and he does something that's terrible and hurts their feelings. And so she's like, how could you do this to me? I've done all these things for you. I've paid for all your things. I've done all these things. And this person's like, well, I never asked you to do that. Does that mean that the thing that they did was no longer hurtful? Of course not. Absolutely not. But what it does mean is that you can't expect people to do things for you just based off of the fact that you do things for them, especially if that's not an expectation that you're setting. You know, you can't force them to feel the way you want them to feel. So you have to let that go. If you're the kind of person where, you know, I'm getting a strong message about someone who's like, you know, how do I get this person to like me? How do I get this person to want me? How do I get this person to love me? And the simplest answer is that you cannot. You can't get anyone to love you. You cannot get anyone. They're going to do it or they're not going to do it. You can play some kind of game where you're trying to entice them more. You can be more, try to be more attractive, but at the end of the day, if that person doesn't like you or if they're not into you, they're not going to do that because they don't want to. And that's the simplest answer. It does not have to be any deeper than that. And more importantly, they don't owe you that. They don't owe you their love, attention, or affection. They owe you nothing. You choosing to do something for someone else has nothing to do with what they should be doing with you. They owe you nothing, especially if you're doing things for them with the secret wanting of them to do a particular thing for you. You're not communicating. You're not really being honest. So every time you, in this particular example, we were talking about the woman doing everything for the man. Every time she took him to work and paid for his stuff, you know, it was with this secret kind of manipulation behind it that hopefully this person was going to give them something back. And that's not right. So if you find yourself doing that and getting sucked into people's drama and sacrificing yourself, always giving of yourself, the problem isn't them, it's you. You need to stop giving people stuff and expecting things in return. And you need to stop overly sacrificing yourself to the point where you're drowning. You know, you're drowning. You're not even living your own life. You're so focused on other people. You're not even living your own life, right? We also have know-it-all. So this is talking about the kind of person who thinks is a little bit arrogant in their, or feels like they have a bit of a higher ground or something, maybe a little bit judgmental. You might find yourself in the energy of judgment lately, you know, feeling like you need to judge people because they're not as sacrificial or holy or spiritual than you are. And let me tell you something about the universe. If you find yourself on a spiritual high ground, you will get smacked down, because there is no high ground in spirituality. There is no, I'm better than you and I'm better than this person because they're not as awakened as I am, or they're not as self-sacrificial as me, or they're not as good as me. You know, give from a place that feels honest to you, and do not give from a place that feels like you're doing it to get something from another person. Because if you're doing it from that perspective, then it's not genuine and it's not going to feel good for you. And this isn't to say that that means you're a bad person. This doesn't mean anything. This is just something that you're working through. Something that, a habit that you do that secretly underneath is coming from a place of wanting to be desired or have friends, or thinking that, most importantly, thinking that your presence is not, and your energy is not enough. There's this idea of like, I have to do all these things for everybody else and get involved in everything that they have going on, because why are they going to want to be around me otherwise? Why do they want to be around me otherwise? Why would they want to be my friend otherwise? And that is the problem. That's not something, that's not a belief system that you want to keep carrying. Like, your energy, you just being you and showing up just as you is 100% enough. All right. So let's go ahead and look at other things here. Okay, we have, for things that you might need to heal, or the core issues, we have nightmares, I'm haunted, and addicted, I need to break my addiction. So let's go ahead and start with the haunting. I feel like you've been burned by a particular friends group now that I'm looking at this. And it has really haunted you. You've dealt with a friends group that's treated you like crap. And it really messed with you and your self-esteem. It could be a friends group or your family, you know, or someone who, like someone in your family or someone that you're dealing with where, like, even if you were genuinely hurt and stuff, they would kind of stand off, like this woman over here, kind of stand off to the side and be like, oh, you're faking it, it's not real, or something like that, right? And maybe you had another friend or a partner or a dad or something like that who would always come in and swoop in and try to help you. So you had this really mixed message of, like, you know, the lines between truth and lies about how you're feeling inside were getting really blurred, because there's a part of you that's like genuinely hurt by things that have happened to you, and you were shunned because of it. And so you end up, you know, meeting someone who does take care of you when you get hurt like that. And so maybe you ended up faking it a little bit. Maybe you're hurting yourself, not literally physically hurting yourself, but, you know, getting into situations that are self-sabotaging because you're looking for somebody to save you. You want him, and you want to try to avoid her, right? And this is like haunting you. This is a story that you are playing out in your life over and over and over again. And then we also have this addicted card, which says that this could be the cycle that you are addicted to, or that there might be some addictive behaviors or things that you're using to get out of feeling a certain type of way, or get out of, you know, addictions. When you pull them down to their base levels, they are things that we are doing to avoid feeling a certain type of way. Like it's usually something stemming from trauma. It's you are trying to find something that's going to fill you up and make you feel better because you don't want to feel a certain type of way. So if you're dealing with an addiction, whether it be even something as simple as video games or being a workaholic or things like that, there may be, the key to it is to figure out what you're trying not to feel. What is the thing that you're trying to avoid feeling? And what do you think is going to happen if you feel it? If you feel a sense of loneliness or a sense of depression or a sense of no one understands me and stuff like that, like, what would happen if you just chose to go through that feeling instead of trying to find something to get rid of the feeling? I'm kind of getting a sense of that. It's a bit of an avoidant behavior, focusing on others, focusing so deeply on others that you are avoiding your own problems. Like, you know, you're trying to fix other people's problems. You don't want to look at your own. All right, so we're going to go ahead and pull up from the inner child one, right? So look at this, right? I was just talking about the relationship with these. I think like you had a parent that was very like punishing, didn't want you to feel certain things, very almost manipulative, very intense. And I feel like this was like the mom figure or the more maternal figure. It doesn't necessarily have to be literally the mom. It could be the dad who's just a little bit more maternal. And then you have this other thing of feeling like you had to hide, right? I'm scared. There are so many scary things in the world. Feeling like you had to hide your emotions because you might have gotten punished for actually showing up in the emotional expression that was true to you. So you feel like you had this bad relationship of, okay, I'm being punished for it, now I gotta hide it, let me focus on you. Now, don't look at me, let me focus on you. What are you feeling? How are you doing? What's going on with you? Right? So that's just like kind of this ping-pong situation. So let's go into a bit of solutions, a bit of like things that might actually help with that. Oof, yes. We have used discernment. See things for what they really are and not for what you want them to be. Oh my God, group number one. We're just talking about this. Why are you doing the things that you're doing? And how can you be true to yourself and knock off these bad habits of just wanting to try to sacrifice and get for other people? You know, is it, and also making sure that you're not like tricking yourself into thinking that if you do something for someone, it means that they owe you something, because that is simply not true. And then we have two from the surrender deck. We have surrender worry. Stop worrying about what people think about you and know that you are enough. Oh my goodness, group number one, you are so enough. Your presence is enough. Your jokes are enough. Your insight is enough. You don't have to keep sacrificing anything. You don't have to keep sacrificing yourself for other people, because you are already enough. People want to be friends with you based off of your personality, and it is enough. The sacrificial part of your personality is a fragmentation that you added in order to feel good about yourself and to get people to do things for you. It's not honest to you. It is not who you are. You have so many other things about you that are beautiful and wonderful. You 100% don't need this other part of yourself that just overly sacrifices some things so many times. And we also have surrender to complete healing. Allowing yourself to go in deep to where you need to heal, and to really look at that, those deep seated stuff from your mom, your dad, your parental caregivers, those early friends, those things you learn. Allow yourself to go deep into those memories and start to realize where some of these unconscious patterns are coming from. Alright, so I'm going to pull out one card from the Hero's Journey deck. I love this deck because it's just very encouraging. Because we're all on a journey, right? That's why I like one. That's one of the reasons why I like this deck. It says, you hold the key to an awakened life. Set yourself free. Set yourself free from having to do all these things for everybody else. Focus on yourself. Focus on healing. Focus on grow. Let yourself be enough. Allow yourself to be enough. Alright, and we're going to pull one out here from the Stripper World Oracle deck, which I just found is just like a very healing deck overall. Very shadowy healing deck. Here we go. It says, Maneater, using manipulation and seducting techniques to lure people into the stupor for your own advantage is very dangerous game to play and might come back to bite you. Do not manipulate people. Do not do things for people just because you want them to do a thing for you. Do not use that as a way to get a man or a woman or a non-binary sovereign, whatever. Like, do not allow that to be the reason why you're do not try to use what you're giving to someone as and force them into liking you, because it almost always backfires. Alright, so that is what I have for you for group number 1. I hope that this gave you some insights into what's going on. I know it's a little bit of tough love, but sometimes we need it. And I will see you on the flip side. Hello, group number 2. This is your reading, your shadow work reading, to help you heal some things you may not be conscious of. We're going to go ahead and get started with this first one here. So we have fragmentation. So this means that there might be some false like separations in your life that you might be putting on yourself that are not actually really true to you. Like, you might be saying, you know, maybe putting caveats on your happiness, putting like, oh, you know, I'll be happy when I have this car, when I do this job, when I do this particular thing, that's when happiness will come. That's what's going to help me out here, even though that's not necessarily what's genuinely going to help you, and that you may not having to do those, you may not have to fragment yourself in that kind of way. Like, there's existence for a lot of different things. Or you might be the kind of person that's like, you know, this person doesn't deserve compassion if I don't like what they say, or something makes me feel a certain type of way. You're kind of fragmenting the situation and you're turning things into a black and white situation, even though it is not. So we're going to get more details about this, but this is just off of first glance. Let's go ahead and go into your, go into your tarot. All right. So we're starting here at death. An ego death has been needing, and there is a big piece of change that would be making you happy that you've been saying no to. And it is becoming scarier and scarier and scarier and scarier as you wait to make these changes. It could be a relationship that you need to leave. It could be a job that you need to leave. It could be a friends group that you need to leave. It could be an aspect of your personality that has not been working for you, or you feeling like you're faking it. You're faking certain aspects of your personality for other people, even though it's just simply not true to who you are, right? You could be a Leo or a Scorpio, most definitely. And then we also have the Sun here. I think group number 2, there has been some really intense trauma really intense stuff that you have gone through in your life, and you've healed from it. You have done so much work on yourself, and now it's like, you know, there's this one song by a band that I like called Icon for Hire, and in like one of the lyrics she'll say like, who am I supposed to be now if I'm no longer sick? Like, you're having almost like this weird ego thing where you're like, well, I feel better about myself now and I kind of want to live my life, but it's like you're having a hard time letting go of that darker, sadder version of yourself, because that's what you've been familiar with for so long. That's the person that you've known yourself to be for so long. So this other part of yourself, this happier, more joyful version of yourself, is now scary, and like, even like you're almost like, it's too good to be true. Like, is my life actually like good? Is this actually happening, or is this just in my head? It's like you can't even trust the situation because you're just so used to that. I also sense that you are in probably having some kind of love offer from someone, or, you know, it could be a feminine energy, or there's a kind of like a relationship presenting themselves to you here. And feminine energy doesn't have anything to do with gender, but this just could mean someone who is more nurturing and emotionally aware. So you might meet someone who's just really nurturing and emotionally aware, who's offering you this cup. They're offering you this beautiful thing that's like, they're like an angel, and you're just like, I can't trust this. I can't trust this. How can I trust this? This is weird. Like, I'm not used to this, you know? And I'm getting a sense that you have to let go of the version of yourself that was self-sabotaging, who was unhappy, and allow happy things to come to you. Allow them to come to you, because you're kind of you're shooting yourself in the foot here, and you're looking at these blessings that are coming your way, and you almost have your eye raised like, I don't know, like, I don't know if that's possible. It is possible. You've done the work, group number 2. You've done the work. It's possible. You can do it. All right. Okay. So we have inconsistent and jealousy issues. I'm sensing that this is definitely about a romantic relationship, and, you know, different messages for different folks. If it doesn't resonate, either pick another group or go on to the later part of this reading. But I'm definitely thinking that this is about some kind of romantic relationship. You know, you in the past in your romantic relationship had a lot of jealousy issues, a lot of insecurities. And you're very, very inconsistent. And again, this is a big thing about letting this version of yourself go. And I think a romantic relationship is presenting itself to you, and it's a healthy one. And you're like, I can't be in this relationship. I'm going to ruin it. I can't be in this relationship. I'm going to kill it. I can't be in this relationship. My jealousy is going to get out of hand. Like, you know, you're almost like stopping yourself. I'm also seeing that there's a big distrust between, like, with yourself, where you think that you are inconsistent and you're not going to, this isn't going to last. It's almost a sense. This happy moment isn't going to last. And to an extent, that can definitely be true. Like, you know, not everybody is meant to be happy all the time, to be perfect all the time, to never make a mistake. But you also have changed significantly over the years, done a lot of work, did a lot of, like, you really unearthed a lot of unconscious things, and made them conscious, you know? And in general, this is just a thing. Now, if that doesn't resonate with you, this could simply just mean that you need to stay out of people's business with this jealousy issue, and stay in your own lane and not worry about other people. You know, get consistent. But I'm sensing this is a little bit something different, right? All right, so we have, for the inner child healing, we have tears. I was told never to cry. I always hide my emotion in fear of being scolded. And then we have discrimination and prejudice. I was always judged based on my color or race. So for you, group number 2, you might have had faced some really intense discriminations about your color, race, creed, sexuality, you know, who you're attracted to, and it may not have fit in the box. You might be queer, or you might be of a, you know, of a different race, and you might have experienced, like, just quite literally discrimination on one level or another when you were younger. And then we also have tears. It's like you were told by your parents, you know what, you're not allowed to talk about this. You're not allowed to speak on this. You're not allowed to cry about this. You know, you're not allowed to have these emotions. I almost get a sense that, like, you know, with this Sun card, it's like now that things are better for you, or things are getting better for you, there's almost like this sense of like it's like you can't even have like tears of joy. You can't even be grateful because you're so afraid that something's going to come along and destroy that. Because you've had that happen to you multiple times. Like you might have literally just been discriminated against about something that was completely out of your control. So it just seems like things are just too good to be true in general. Oof, very, 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 very heavy stuff. Let's go ahead and go to the healing cards. We have trust issues. You know, we were just kind of talking about that. Like, it's like you're not trusting the situation, and we also have eating disorder. I'm unable to eat properly. So you might have some kind of situation with food. That might be something. I'm also thinking like you could have been someone who was maybe like, you considered yourself overweight when you were younger. And that has given you discrimination, that has given you a sense of like not, you know, just not being like, you know, people not treating you, like bullying you because of your weight and things of that sort. So it's like, it's almost like you don't trust yourself when it comes to food. Like you have a little bit of a shadow thing going on with food because you're afraid that you're going to be discriminated against if you allow yourself to eat delicious food or allow yourself to indulge a little bit. And then like the sun can be very much about indulgent, you know, indulging, nurturing yourself. Yeah, wow. This is a lot of message for a lot of different people. For some people, it's about a romantic relationship. For other people, it's about their relationship with food. For other people, it's just about allowing themselves to be happy after years of not being happy. You know, it's like the cup is being offered to you. Whatever that thing is being offered to you. And it's almost like you're just saying no because it's like, I don't know what's in that cup. I don't know if that's real. I've been played before. I'm not trusting this. I'm not trusting this situation, right? So let's go into some healing here. Romantic relationship. I really feel like for some of you this is about a romantic relationship. So we have set relationship goals. So for some of you the answer is going to be allowing yourself to have concrete list of things that you want in a person, so that if someone does come along, you don't have to worry about whether or not you can trust it. You can look at that list and be like, oh, I want someone who's really kind. If you go and you look at that person and they're not kind, 1 + 1 = 2. Bam, you don't have to worry about it anymore. Like, they're not kind. End of story. And obviously that's a very small example, but you know, that's something that you can really like depend on, right? And then for other people, we have start a side hustle. And I think that some of you have like a passion that you've been wanting to do, something that you've really, really, really been wanting to do, but you have convinced yourself that you cannot do it. For some reason, you have convinced yourself that this is the bane of your existence. It's something that you cannot do. It is not possible. It is possible. Start that business. Start that side hustle. Start that thing that you actually want to do. Start that passion. Allow yourself to be happy. Group number 2, you deserve it. Okay? All right. So we have, for the surrender cards, we have surrender denial and surrender stress. When we are stressed out, we cannot act in our best interest because our cortisol levels are really, really high, and just in general, stress really prevents us from being able to think very clearly about situations. So if you are super stressed out, deal with that first. Deal with the stress. You know, breathe more frequently because that takes you out of your fight or flight mode and puts you into rest and digest, which ultimately is the thing that you need to think clearly. So take some time to breathe for 5 minutes, deep into your belly. Do things that are relaxing. Exercise, you know, and this isn't to say like exercise so that you can lose weight, but exercising does kind of help with not feeling depressing and lifting stress. And then we have surrender denial. You know, you have to accept people and situations exactly as they are without denying the difficulties. Then you can see things clearly and make best decisions. So don't overly look at someone or a situation and just go into straight dreamer mode where it's like nothing can go wrong and everything is sunshine and roses. But also don't deny happiness when it's just staring you right in the face either. Don't be like, no, this isn't for me. Like, don't do that. You wanna have a balanced approach. Okay? Let's get some additional messages from the Hero's Journey deck here. Okay. It says, in the castle of dreams, become altered by color of your dreams. So this is a card that's very much about saying yes to your dream, and building your dream and actively choosing your soul's path. So that's kind of where I want to bring your attention to. Nothing in your life is going to happen unless you say yes to that thing. Now, people say yes to misery all the time. They say yes to doing that because that's what they're used to. And sometimes the devil you know is easier to deal with than the devil that you don't know, or the enemy that you don't know. And sometimes we can even pathologize our own happiness, well-being into that category of being an enemy that we do not know, especially if we've gone through some stuff. So for you, group number 2, start allowing yourself to build upon those dreams that you didn't think would be able to happen, like a happy relationship, like a business, like the arts, like doing things, those impossible things that you didn't think you were going to happen because of your trauma, because of your pain, because of your past relationships. Start building on that and allow yourself to have those things. All right. And let's pull out one more deck from the Stripper World Oracle deck. Do love this deck. Ooh, we have study. Whether you are learning more about yourself or taking on a new role, make certain that it is in alignment with who you are. It is up to you to decide if this discovery process is worthwhile. So with this card, the big message that I'm getting is, if you still feel like you're anxious about this new path, it's okay to learn about it. It's okay to research it. It's okay to put your time, effort, and attention into learning a lot about this subject. You don't always have to go full-fledged into something like, you know, like you're ramming bull. You just gotta just run straight into it. You don't have to do that. Sometimes you can slow down, learn about it, you know, feel into it, dip your toe in it a little bit, feel the temperature. Like, you don't have to everything doesn't have to be solved overnight. So do your research. If you're dealing with a person, do your research on the person. Talk to them, get to know them. You don't have to make any decisions today, but at least allow yourself to hope that things are going to get better. All right, so that's what I have for you, group number 2. Please let me know if it resonated with you. I love to read the comments, and I will see you on the flip side. Last but certainly not least, group number 3. This is your shadow reading. Let's get into it. Let's just start pulling cards. So we have atonement. Oof. Dealing with guilt. Dealing with guilt, very intense guilt, feeling like, you know, some of you might have came from religious background where you literally, like, guilt is just a huge thing, or you know, you're having kind of a bit of a Saturnian situation where you're having to deal with some stuff that you did that you know wasn't right. Guilt can be helpful if it is allowing you to grow into a better person. But if it is something that you are holding on to because you are just addicted to the suffering of it, you know, sometimes guilt and shame is actually the very thing that's stopping us from growing. It's like we go into the shadows and the dark and the depth, and like, it's like, of course, nothing I do is right. Like, of course I messed this up. Of course I hurt this person because nothing I do is right. And then it's almost like, it's like you go into the self-pity and you're not even growing from it anymore. It's not helpful anymore. It has gotten to a point where it's far beyond helpful. It's not really doing anything in your life in a positive way anymore. Now it's just kind of something that, like, you're holding on to. Because if you're a bad person, or if you think you're a bad person, then there's no reason to change. Because you are this person, right? So letting go of guilt and shame is kind of necessary in order to actually become the person that you actually want to be. Sitting in it, just kind of sitting in it and gestating in it isn't going to help. Sometimes, even if you do feel guilt and shame, like, you still have to make the right decisions. And it definitely doesn't mean that if you've done anything wrong in your life, that it means that now you're not going to ever, you know, become a better person. And also, generally, mistakes that people make don't actually mean that they're a bad or a good person. Sometimes good people make mistakes. Sometimes bad people do really kind, crazy things that are way out of their character. You know, the world is not this black and white, good and evil situation. Sometimes people do things and simply it is kind of what it is. So let's go ahead and look here. Definitely feeling high religious shame. Definitely feel like you guys are walking away from a religion of some sort, or there's some religious undertones because we have the Hierophant here. But I'm really getting pulled away from getting pulled into this card. You seem like you're running away from something that you did. You either hurt someone and you ran away from it, like you did not deal with it properly, or maybe you have a habit of just kind of running away from your problems when things get really tough, and now you're coming back and like facing them, and it's really, really, really hard. Which I imagine it would be. You feel all the guilt and shame. You have to deal with all these people and their opinions about you. You can't just disappear. You can't just go off. Like, you're really, like, in the thick of it. This also could be about an energy of, you know, not leaving things, needing to leave some things behind. Needing to move on, needing to go away. But like for me, when I look at this card, I think of somebody running away from their problems. They see the swords over here and they're just running away from it. They are just like, you know, I see that these swords are here and I'm not dealing with it. I'm gone. I'm leaving. All right. And I feel like this is a habit that you've had a lot, group number 3, that you are addressing now. Because you see like the swords, like, right? All these swords are in her back. And all these swords are over here. What makes me think that now you're coming back because you were running away from the hurt that you did. Now you're feeling it. Now it's in your back. Now you're feeling their pain. Right? 2 of Pentacles. Somebody that you were working with. Someone that you're friends with. Abandoning a project. Abandoning a friend and they needed you. Abandoning a group of people when they needed you, you know, because maybe you've been abandoned in your life and this is what you know, this is how you deal with stuff, right? When the drama gets too much, you're out of there, you're gone, you know, and now you're kind of having to deal with the thick of it. Like, you know, you see you see these 2 people, they do not look happy. You look at these 2 young ladies here, they do not look happy. They look pissed off. Like, yeah, I feel like you dealt with someone, you did something to somebody else, and they're looking back at you like, you pissed me off. Like, you did something, it was not cool, and you need to atone, and you need to apologize. And that has been sitting on you. For some of you, this is going to be about you having to deal with your own guilt and shame and allowing yourself to be free of that. For others, there are some people in your life that you have burned that you straight up need to go and apologize to. You need to go and apologize to. You need to take the L. You need to be like, I messed up. There was no excuse for it. I should have never abandoned our school project. I should have never abandoned you at your time of need. I shouldn't have gone chasing after that boy because he was cuter. And abandon you, like, straight up. There are certain ones of you who are listening to this right now who straight up need to go and apologize to someone because you messed up. And then there are some people here who have done the apologizing, but just haven't gotten to a point where you're finally allowing yourself to live through this guilt. Like, this guilt and shame is like weighing really heavy on you. You gotta let it go. Then we also have this religious undertone. I do feel like a lot of you are dealing with this, with a lot of religious shame, walking away from a religion or walking away from a toxic situation that had a lot to do with tradition to go do something that was very unconventional. And maybe now you're starting to feel guilt about it. I'm also seeing that maybe you had something going on at church or something that you were doing with someone in church that you kind of abandoned and you had to apologize for. this guy in this picture looks like he's giving like some kind of exorcism. So maybe you've dealt with a lot of religious shame where, you know, maybe you're queer or something like that. And, you know, you were told that just being who you are, like you needed to exorcise it, like it was some kind of demon, you know, like there's something wrong with you. There's something messed up about you, something that is inherently bad, even though that's not true. And you've been dealing with this pain for a really, really long time. And you gotta let it go, you know? Okay. See, I was talking about this hurtful behavior, like that some of you, you know, you might have had, like you've been in a bad place, you were dealing with some trauma, you were dealing with some stuff, and you hurt some people, and you really need to go and apologize to those people because you did stuff that was hurtful. Even if you had a good reason to do the thing, because a lot of times we think that if someone has a reason for doing the thing that they do, that it absolves them, and it usually doesn't. 9 times out of 10 it doesn't, but it doesn't mean that those reasons aren't valid either. It's both at the same time. Again, it's not black and white. Like the situation is what it is. In one of my podcast episodes, I talked about the psychology of ghosting. And I talked about the fact that sometimes people ghost people because they're in a really bad depressive place, and they really just don't have the energy to actually reach out to the other person. And though you can be compassionate to that person, it doesn't all of a sudden mean that because they were depressed that they didn't hurt someone by ghosting them. It's both. Like, you had a good reason for doing what you did, but you still caused harm. Therefore, you should still probably apologize or make that situation right. Like, just because you were in a bad space in your mental health doesn't mean that your actions weren't hurtful to other people. They both exist at the same time in the same space. Like, I've had issues with my mental health, and it has caused me to do some pretty shitty things to other people. And guess what? I still had to apologize. Like, it doesn't just go away because I'm going through something. You know, of course, the people I talked to were compassionate. They are understanding. Of course, all of that is true. And of course, being able to explain where I was definitely helped the situation. But at the end of the day, hurtful behavior is still hurtful behavior, and both exist. Like, both situations exist at the same time. You cannot separate them. So I feel like if you've been going through a lot and you have abandoned some people, or you've done some things that you weren't supposed to do, you still got to apologize to that. You still got to deal with that. I also feel like drama. We're getting some sense of drama here. You know, you have some drama at church, or drama with like some, you know, some religious people, or drama with like maybe someone who's a little bit more traditional. And you ended up hurting them, or they ended up hurting you in general. And like, there's just like, you kind of have to like detox from the crazy and the drama and the BS that's going on in your life right now, because it's just generally not great. You know, I'm getting a big sense of that. It's really like cleansing, cleansing the guilt, cleansing the shame, but also cleansing the toxic friends and the toxic environment, right? Like, you could be the nicest you could have become the nicest person in the world, but if you're still hanging out with those toxic friends who still do toxic stuff, who are super dramatic and gossipy and just generally not great, you know, you're probably still going to get sucked into the same crappy behaviors that you were doing before. So let's go ahead and look at some inner child stuff here. I have always struggled to feel special in life, and I'm a big, strong, and I can conquer anything. So when you were younger, your inner child, like, it is coming off with the fact that, like, you may have struggled to feel special and relevant in your own life. Which might have been causing you to act out in kind of hurtful ways, to kind of trailblaze and give yourself a position in a friends group or whatever group you're a part of. Like, you feel like you have to almost go all the way to extremes in order to be noticed, because you always have to like define yourself by othering in a way. Like, I'm not like them, kind of thing is the way that you define yourself, right? Like, I can do whatever I want, I can say whatever I want. Like, you almost have a facade of like, I can do whatever I want and say whatever I want because this is who I am. If you don't like it, you know, that's up to you. F you. Like, you know, even though that's really a facade and it's not truly who you are. Like, who you are is probably a lot more sensitive than who you portray. And that sensitivity isn't a bad thing. That sensitivity is a good thing. That sensitivity means that you are in tune with other people's emotions. That's good. that means you're human. Great. Like, you know, you don't have to put on a facade of I never can be hurt, you know, and use it as a way to make yourself different from other people. Let's go into the healing ones. Oh, the mistakes. I find it difficult to forgive and overcome my mistakes. Oh goodness, that's just too creepy. And sometimes I creep myself out as a tarot reader, believe it or not. Yes, I really do feel like there's a strong sense of needing to forgive yourself from your past mistakes. For some of you need to do the apologizing, but I really feel like the core group here needs to forgive themselves for their past mistakes. It's over. You apologize. These people are still in your life. Why are you still drudging this to a point where you're just sitting in your guilt and shame? It's not helping you anymore. It's not doing anything for you anymore. And we have attach. I have unhealthy attachment to people and situations of the past. Oh my God. Yes. I'm also feeling that there's a group, there's a sense of you who are still hanging out with the wrong crowd, or just holding on to stuff from the past that you are attached to because it's just like fitting your narrative of I'm a bad person and I'm unworthy. And you are not a bad person and you are worthy. But being a better person requires commitment, and it is hard work. And I get it. You probably are like, I don't want to do that. Like, that's a lot of work. Having to be integral is a lot of freaking work. You know, it's very difficult to be that. However, that's who you're supposed to be. And you know that. And holding on to the guilt and the shame and all of these negative emotions, and even some of these crappy people that you know for a fact that you shouldn't be hanging out with, holding on to them is not helping you. It's not. It's time to let it go. It's time to let that guilt and shame go. Free yourself. If everyone else has forgiven you, you got to forgive yourself. You have to, because holding on to this is just not good for you. All right, so we have self-care. Oh my God. Forgiveness is for you. Forgive others and yourself because your soul deserves peace. I don't even feel like I need to explain this, group number 3. Like, you know what the deal is. Make new friends. Oh my God. Go out there, make new friends, make new connections, or just be with your maybe the friends or family members or people that you've abandoned. Just be with them, actually go out and make new relationships, start over, and have a better sense. You gotta forgive yourself, and you gotta forgive this version of yourself who made these mistakes. This isn't to say that you're never gonna make a mistake again. Group number 3, you are probably going to make plenty of mistakes. That's the nature of living, is to make mistakes. Like, you're not going to be a perfect person all the time. That's why we apologize. That's why we ask for forgiveness. You don't have to be right all the time. That's the whole point. Like, when we mess up, we can go to another person and we say, hey, I messed up. I shouldn't have did that. And this was my reasons for doing that. And you would be surprised how forgiving people truly are when you are willing to move past it. Right? Sometimes I've known people who they'll drudge up their own stuff. Like, I'll be friends with them and we're cool. I haven't thought about that thing they did 2 years ago, and they'll bring it up. You remember when that did that terrible thing to you and we almost stopped being friends? And it's like, well, like, I wasn't even thinking about it. Now I'm thinking about it because you brought it up. Why are you doing that? So forgive yourself. Get out of those crappy relationships that you might be in, and allow yourself to move on from the mistakes that you've made. Group number 3. All right. Whew. Surrender your ego. So I was saying earlier in this video that sometimes our ego, like a part of the ego is who we believe ourselves to be. So if you believe yourself to be a bad person, when you go and try to act as if you are someone else, like if you go outside of that, then it becomes a lot less harder. So you have to shed this ego version of yourself that was like, I'm a bad person, all I do is hurt people, all I do is ruin things, I'm a ruiner. I really get a sense of like, there's someone out there who's just like, all I do is ruin things, all I do is ruin things. Like, and it's like, no, you don't. You sometimes have made mistakes, but it doesn't mean that now everything about you and who you are is just terrible. You have to shed that level of ego. You have to shed that so that you can get to the person you are underneath. And we also have surrendered to play. Some of y'all don't have no sense of humor when it comes to yourself. You can't laugh at yourself. To me, that's one of the first signs that there's healing to be done if you can't laugh at yourself. You ever meet someone who's just so serious and like you try to give them a joke and they're just like deadpan all the time? It's like you need to laugh a little bit. Play around a little bit. Have some fun a little bit. Go do something that makes you happy and gives you profound joy, group number 3. All this moping around about stuff you did 5 years ago is not going to do anything for you. If you have apologized, if you've done everything that you could, it is time to move on and go do something fun. Okay? Let's go ahead and pull out a Hero's Journey Oracle card. Okay, it says Whale of Time. Your charge is to enlarge. Okay, so this card to me is about allowing yourself to become bigger than you are. Like shedding the version of yourself in your mind and becoming who you truly are meant to be. It's like it's your charge is to enlarge, to become bigger than what you were, to become better than what you were, and stop stopping yourself from doing that. All right, and then let's go ahead and pull out a triple oracle deck. My Wednesday Addams, no. Okay, she's back. Oh. Okay, all of these fell out, so we're gonna go. Here we go. I just need one card, Spirit. Okay. It says, rule your domain. Be the queen of your domain. Don't sit behind the scenes and give away your power. Accept who you are and what you want and make no apologies for it. Right, okay, you're done making apologies. You apologize. You did all the things that you were supposed to do. Now you got to go into your queendom, your kingdom, your sovereignty. Now you got to move past that version of yourself. It's time to move on, group number 3. All right, it's time to move on and to forgive yourself. So that's what I have for you, group number 3. I am so happy that you decided to do this with me. I will see you on the flip side. Please comment your thoughts, your feelings, and all that being said, for everybody, if you made it this far, if you watched all 3, remember to be compassionate to yourself and remember to be compassionate to others. And with all of that, I will see you later.